Well, guys, this morning, as the world is facing a transatlantic crisis, we celebrate the life of really a force on the foreign stage, the life of Madeleine Albright, the first woman to become U.S. Secretary of State and a force in global affairs, died yesterday. President Biden said Secretary Albright was a, quote, a force for goodness, grace, and decency, and for freedom. Hers were the hands that turned the tide of history. She was that, and so much more. At a time when the world faces a transatlantic crisis, we lost a giant in foreign policy. Madeleine Albright was the first female Secretary of State in American history, and her legacy does not stop there. Born in Prague, Marie Jana Madlenka Korbalova in 1937, it is her father who may have lit the spark in her brilliant mind, serving as a member of the Czechoslovak Foreign Service and as press attaché in Belgrade, and then later ambassador to Yugoslavia. After Czech communists with Soviet support overthrew the government of Czechoslovakia in 1948, the family immigrated to America, where Madlenka, then age 11, became Madeleine. At the age of 20, Madeleine Albright became a U.S. citizen in 1957 and would earn a degree in political science with honors from Wellesley College in 1959. She would go on to earn a Ph.D. in public law and government from Columbia, where she studied under another fellow refugee from Poland, my father, Zbigniew Brzezinski. In 1976, she worked for Senator Edmund Muskie of Maine, and 2 years later found herself in a windowless cubbyhole in the West Wing as a staffer in the White House, brought there by my father, then National Security Advisor for President Jimmy Carter. He brought her in for her knowledge, her skills, and her ability to bluntly tell him what he needed to hear.
He did more than anyone, apart from my father, to shape my view of the world and my understanding of foreign policy through a relationship that spanned 6 decades.
With their similar backgrounds and shared ideals, my father and mother and Madeleine quickly became the closest of friends. From that point on, our families would be intertwined forever. From the West Wing, Dr. Albright would go on to Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service as director of its Women in Foreign Service program. Then, in 1993, she was appointed ambassador to the United Nations by President Bill Clinton. On December 5th, 1996, Madeleine Korbel Albright was nominated to be the 64th and first woman Secretary of State by President Clinton.
I, Madeleine Korbel Albright,
confirmed just over a month later in the U.S. Senate with a vote of 99-0. She served in the position for 4 years. A transatlantic groundbreaker, Albright promoted the expansion of NATO eastward into former Soviet bloc nations, supported the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons from the former Soviet republics to rogue nations, and championed America's alliances. She successfully pressed for NATO to intervene militarily during the humanitarian crisis in Kosovo in 1999, furthered the normalization of relations with Vietnam, and favored the ratification of the Kyoto Protocol on global climate change. She tirelessly and fiercely advocated for democracy and human rights. In 2012, Dr. Albright received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, from President Barack Obama.
Once at a naturalization ceremony, an Ethiopian man came up to her and said, "Only in America can a refugee meet the Secretary of State." And she replied, "Only in America can a refugee become the Secretary of State."
She never forgot young Madlenka, a child war refugee, who, along with her family, was forced by the Nazis to flee her homeland, came to America, where democracy, rule of law, and peace enabled her talents to be leveraged at the highest levels of public service. She never took freedom for granted.
The great lesson of this century is that when aggression and brutality go unopposed, like a cancer, they spread, and what begins as a treatable sickness in one part of the body can rapidly endanger the whole.
Albright's life and legacy is testimony to what is at stake in Europe today. The accession of Central European democracies into NATO, where they not only flourish but add value to the community of democracies. And that finds itself under threat today. Her passing should inspire us all to recognize what is once again at stake in Europe and the world. I will miss her deeply. I've known Dr. Albright since I was a little girl. She tried to get me to call her Madeline in later years. It never worked.
From what has been reported, Mika has decided to take Joe's name. As a former student and devoted colleague of her father's, I don't understand why she would do this, because Scarborough is so hard to spell.
She had a quick wit, a loving heart, and a knowledge that cut deep about the preciousness of freedom. She did not suffer fools, and as loving and supportive as she was to me growing up, it was how fiercely protective she was of freedom. That's what I'll always remember about Madeleine Albright. And more on a personal note, when my father, when we all moved to Washington here for his service in the White House, he didn't do anything without Madeleine's stamp of approval. He bought a wild pony in McLean, Virginia for my mom. Madeleine found it for him. And she found our house for us, our old farmhouse in McLean, Virginia. And on my dad's birthday every year, she would call me to remind me to tell him happy birthday. And when he passed, she would call me on Joe's birthday. So Joe's birthday is coming up, and I'm really going to miss that phone call because we always would have such a great conversation. Joe?
Yeah, you actually, Mika, started. By the way, we were at CSIS for remembrance event for your dad after his funeral. And she just leaned over in the middle of it. Some people were saying glowing things about your father. She leaned over and she goes, "When's your birthday?" And I told her, and she said, "All right, I'm gonna have to call Mika. Brzezinski women. She's not good with Brzezinski women. Are very bad with birthdays." But Mika, you started calling her a month ago pretty regularly. Why did you do that?
Yeah, about 6 weeks ago, I gave her a call. I was actually going to talk to her about a women's event I was having, but she told me she was sick. And she said, you know, I think I'm going to be okay, but I don't know how this is going to end. And there was something about her voice and how she said that made me feel like I needed to call every week. And so I did, and she would get me off the phone very quickly. She'd be like, "I'm fine, and thank you for calling." And so it just was something I started doing every week just to check on her and to hear her voice.
And you know, Willie, maybe it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, but on the last call she made, you know, Mika would have it on speakerphone. She'd, "Hi, Madeleine, how you doing? Joe and I are here checking how you doing." And she goes, "I'm fine." And Mika would say, "Well, how are you feeling?" She goes, "I'm doing well. I'm doing well." "Well, we'd love to get you." "Okay, yeah, we can do that." And I was like, "Okay." And so she hung up, and I said to Mika the last time, I said, "Mika, maybe you should stop calling her and asking how she's doing. She doesn't sound like she's like appreciates it." And Mika goes, "That's how Eastern European women talk to each other." and sure enough, when Mika got the call yesterday from someone who had worked with Madeleine for a long time, one of the first things he said to her was, she sure did enjoy Mika's phone calls. She really appreciated them over the past month. So I guess that is how Eastern European women talk to each other. It was, but she was incredible. She also loved, Willie, telling stories about Dr. Brzezinski, especially stories in which she sort of tugged on Dr. Brzezinski and punctuated that big personality of his. And she would just laugh and laugh about it. She's an incredible friend to the Brzezinskis, but what an unbelievable force for freedom. What a trailblazer in America's foreign policy.
Yeah, I love hearing those stories about the personal relationship, and then on big global issues like Ukraine, she was one of those guests when she came on the show. Everybody kind of stopped, leaned in to listen because you knew she had been there, she had talked to the right people, and you really valued her insight. You know, Mika touched on her personal story too. It's just when you dig into the details of how she even got to America to ascend to become, at that time, the highest ranking woman in the history of American government as the first Secretary of State.
Yes.
Her family fled Czechoslovakia from the Nazis, went to London. She endured the Blitz there as a child. War ends, they go back home to Czechoslovakia, and then the Soviet-backed government, it topples the government there. They flee again and go back to London, eventually end up in the United States, and she goes on to become the Secretary of State. It's truly, truly an extraordinary family story. It's an extraordinary American story. And David Ignatius, I know you had a close relationship as well with Secretary Albright. What are your thoughts this morning about the woman, but also the diplomat?
Well, as Mika's wonderful evocation of her tells us, she was just a remarkable person. She had the gift of life. She had that ability to go into a room of very serious people talking about big subjects and just bring a sense of humanity and often levity. It was impossible not to have a good time when you were talking to Secretary Albright.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.